they are less likely to go away. So it is important for us to crack down on how these special interests are able to influence Congress. And yes, it is important for us to inspire and mobilize and motivate the American people to get involved and pay attention.
Senator Obama, let me ask you about motivating, inspiring, keeping your word. Nothing more important. Last year, you said if you were the nominee, you would opt for public financing in the general election of a campaign. Try to get some of the money out. You checked yes on a questionnaire. And now Senator McCain has said, calling your bluff, let's do it. You seem to be waffling, saying, well, if we can work on an arrangement here. Why won't you keep your word in writing that you made to abide by public financing of the fall election?
Tim, I am not yet the nominee. And what I've said is that when I am the nominee, if I am the nominee, because we've still got a bunch of contests left and Senator Clinton's a pretty tough opponent. If I am the nominee, then I will sit down with John McCain and make sure that we have a system that is fair for both sides. Because, Tim, as you know, there are all sorts of ways of getting around these loopholes. Senator McCain is trying to explain some of the things that he has done so far where he accepted public financing money, but people aren't exactly clear whether all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. Now, what I want to point out, though, more broadly, is how we have approached this campaign. I said very early on I would not take PAC money. I would not take money from federal registered lobbyists. That was a multi-million-dollar decision, but it was the right thing to do. And the reason we were able to do that was because I had confidence that the American people, if they were motivated, would in fact finance the campaign. We have now raised 90% of our donations from small donors, $25, $50. Our average donation is $109. So we have built the kind of organization that is funded by the American people that is exactly the goal and the aim of everybody who's interested in good government.
So you may opt out of public financing. You may break your word.
What I've said is at the point where I'm the nominee, at the point where it's appropriate, I will sit down with John McCain and make sure that we have a system that works for everybody.
Senator Clinton, an issue of accountability and credibility. You have loaned your campaign $5 million. You and your husband file a joint return. You refuse to release that joint return, even though former President Clinton has had significant overseas business dealings. Your chief supporter here in Ohio, Governor Strickland, made releasing his opponent's tax return one of the primary issues of the campaign, saying repeatedly, accountability, transparency. If he's not releasing, his campaign said, his tax return, what is he hiding? We should question what's going on. Why won't you release your tax return so the voters of Ohio, Texas, Vermont, Rhode Island know exactly where you and your husband got your money, who might be in part bankrolling your campaign?
Well, the American people who support me are bankrolling my campaign. That's obvious. You can look and see the hundreds of thousands of contributions that I've gotten, and ever since I lent my campaign money, people have responded just so generously. I'm thrilled at so many people getting involved, and we're raising on average about $1 million a day on the internet. And if anybody's out there wants to contribute to be part of this campaign, just go to HillaryClinton.com, because that's who's funding my campaign. And I will release my tax returns. I have consistently said that.
Why not now?
Well, I will do it as others have done it upon becoming the nominee, or even earlier, Tim, because I have been as open as I can be. The public has 20 years of records from me, and I have very extensive filings with the Senate where
So before next Tuesday's primary?
Well, I can't get it together by then, but I will certainly work to get it together. I'm a little busy right now. I hardly have time to sleep, but I will certainly, work toward releasing, and we will get that done and in the public domain.
One other issue, you talk about releasing documents. On January 30th, the National Archives released 10,000 pages of your public schedule as First Lady. It's now in the custody of former President Clinton. Will you release that again during this primary season? You claim that 8 years of experience. Let the public know what you did,
right,
who you met with those 8 years.
Absolutely. I've urged that the process be as quick as possible. It's a cumbersome process set up by law. It doesn't just apply to us. It applies to everyone in our position. And I have urged that our end of it move as expeditiously as we can. Now, also, President Bush claims the right to look at anything that is released, and I would urge the Bush White House to move as quickly as possible.
But you had it for more than a month. Will you get it to him? Will you get it to the White House immediately?
As soon as we can, Tim. I've urged that, and I hope it will happen.
Senator Obama, one of the things in a campaign is that you have to react to unexpected developments. On Sunday, the headline in your hometown paper, Chicago Tribune, Louis Farrakhan backs Obama for president at Nation of Islam convention in Chicago. Do you accept the support of Louis Farrakhan?
You know, I have been very clear in my denunciation of Minister Farrakhan's anti-Semitic comments. I think they are unacceptable and reprehensible. I did not solicit this support. He expressed pride in an African American who seems to be bringing the country together. I obviously can't censor him, but it is not support that I sought, and we're not doing anything, I assure you, formally or informally with Minister Farrakhan.
Do you reject his support?
Well, Tim, you know, I can't say to somebody that he can't say that he thinks I'm a good guy. You know, I have been very clear in my denunciations of him and his past statements, and I think that indicates to the American people what my stance is on those comments.
The problem some voters may have is, as you know, Reverend Farrakhan called Judaism gutter religion.
Tim, I think I am very familiar with his record, as are the American people. That's why I have consistently denounced it. This is not something new. This is something that I live in Chicago. He lives in Chicago. I've been very clear in terms of me believing that what he has said is reprehensible and inappropriate, and I have consistently distanced myself from him.
The title of one of your books, Audacity of Hope, you acknowledge you got from a sermon from Reverend Jeremiah Wright, the head of the Trinity United Church. He said that Louis Farrakhan epitomizes greatness. He said that he went to Libya in 1984 with Louis Farrakhan to visit with Muammar Gaddafi, and that when your political opponents found out about that, quote, your Jewish support would dry up quicker than a snowball in hell. What do you do to assure Jewish Americans that whether it's Farrakhan support or the activities of Reverend Jeremiah Wright, your pastor, you are consistent with issues regarding Israel and not in any way suggesting that Farrakhan epitomizes greatness?
Oh, Tim, I have some of the strongest support from the Jewish community in my hometown of Chicago and in this presidential campaign. And the reason is because I have been a stalwart friend of Israel's. I think they are one of our most important allies in the region, and I think that their security is sacrosanct, and that the United States is in a special relationship with them, as is true with my relationship with the Jewish community. And the reason that I have such strong support is because they know that not only would I not tolerate anti-Semitism in any form, but also because of the fact that what I want to do is rebuild what I consider to be a historic relationship between the African American community and the Jewish community. I would not be sitting here were it not for a whole host of Jewish Americans who supported the civil rights movement and helped to ensure that justice was served in the South. And that coalition has frayed over time around a whole host of issues. And part of my task in this process is making sure that those lines of communication and understanding are reopened. But the reason that I have such strong support in the Jewish community and have historically, it was true in my U.S. Senate campaign,